The siege of Fort of Mackinac was one of the first engagements of the War of 1812. A British and Native American force captured the island soon after the outbreak of war between Britain and the United States. Encouraged by the easy British victory, more Native Americans rallied to the support. The cooperation was an important factor in several British victories during the remainder of the war. Background: Mackinac Island was a U.S. fur trading post in the Straits of Mackinac between Lake Michigan and Lake Huron. Since the mid-17th century, it had been important for its influence and control over the Indian tribes in the area. British and Canadian traders had resented it being ceded to the United States at the end of the American Revolutionary War. The United States Army maintained a small fort, named Fort Mackinac, on the island. About 40 miles away was the British military post on St. Joseph Island and the Northwest Company's trading post at Sault Ste. Marie. The British commander in Upper Canada, Major General Isaac Brock, had kept the commander of the post at St. Joseph Island, Captain Charles Roberts. Informed of events as war appeared increasingly likely from the start of 1812. As soon as he learned of the outbreak of war, Brock sent a canoe party led by the noted trader William Mackay to Roberts with the vital news and orders to capture Mackinac. Mackay reached St. Joseph Island on the 8th of July. With the assistance of the Northwest Company, Roberts immediately began to collect a force consisting of 3 men of the Royal Artillery, 47 British soldiers of the 10th Royal Veteran Battalion, 150 Canadian or MEQTI's fur traders and voyagers, 300 Ojibwa or Ottawas who were at the island to trade skins, and 110 Sioux, Menominee and Winnebago who had been recruited by Indian agent Robert Dixon from present-day Wisconsin. As preparations for the expedition proceeded, Roberts received successive orders from Brock to cancel, and then to reinstate, the attack on Mackinac. Colonel Edward Baines, the Adjutant General for all British forces in Canada, also sent orders for Roberts to concentrate on defending St. Joseph Island. However, on the 15th of July, Roberts received further orders from Brock which allowed him to use his own discretion. Fearing that the Indians would drift away if they were not allowed to attack, Roberts immediately set out. His force was embarked in the armed schooner Caledonia belonging to the Northwest Company, 70 war canoes and 10 bateaux. Capture of Mackinac. Fort Mackinac was sited on a limestone ridge which overlooked the harbor at the southeastern end of the island. The American garrison consisted of 61 artillerymen under Lieutenant Porter Hanks with 7 guns, although only one of these, a 9-pounder, could reach the harbor. There were other weaknesses. The garrison relied for fresh water on a spring outside the fort, and the position was overlooked by a higher ridge less than a mile away. The United States Secretary of War William Eustis, who was apparently preoccupied with financial economies, had sent no communications to Hanks for several months. He sent word of the declaration of war on the 18th of June to the commanders in the Northwest by ordinary rate post. The postmaster at Cleveland, Ohio, realized the importance of the news and hired an express rider to take it to Brigadier General William Hull, who was advancing on Detroit. But it was too late to save both Hull and Hanks from being taken by surprise by the outbreak of hostilities. Though he was unaware of events elsewhere, Hanks had heard rumors of unusual activity at St. Joseph Island. He sent a fur trader named Michael Dousman, who held a commission as an officer in the militia, to investigate. Dousman's boat was captured by the advancing British force, and Dousman apparently quickly changed sides. Having learned from Dousman that the U.S. forces were unaware of the outbreak of war, Roberts' force landed at a settlement later named British Landing on the north end of the island, 2 miles away from the fort. Early on the morning of the 17th of July, they quietly removed the village's inhabitants from the homes, dragged a 6-pounder cannon through the woods to a ridge above the fort, and fired a single round before sending a message under a flag of truce, demanding the U.S. forces surrender. Hanks's force was surprised and was already at a tactical disadvantage. The flag of truce had been accompanied by 3 of the villagers, who greatly exaggerated the number of Indians in Roberts's force. Fearing a massacre by the Indians, Hanks capitulated without a fight. The United States garrison was taken prisoner but was released on giving the parole not to fight for the remainder of the war. Aftermath. The island's inhabitants were made to swear an oath of allegiance to the United Kingdom or leave within a month. Most took the oath. Roberts arrested 3 deserters from the British Army and 20 alleged British citizens. There was no looting, although Roberts expropriated the goods in the United States storehouses and a government trading post and purchased several bullocks to feed the Indians. The British abandoned their own fort at St. Joseph Island and concentrated the forces at Mackinac Island. Of the Indians present, the Ottawa contingent had apparently remained aloof from the others. They and most of the Chippewas later dispersed. At least some of the Western Indians proceeded south to join the tribes with Tecumseh at Fort Amherstburg. The mere threat of their arrival prompted the American Brigadier General Hull to abandon his invasion of Canadian territory and retreat to Detroit. On the 3rd of August, the news of the loss of Mackinac prompted several Indian tribes who had been friendly to the Americans and neutral to rally to the British cause. The hostility influenced the U.S. surrender at the Siege of Detroit shortly afterwards. Lieutenant Hanks was killed by a cannon shot at Detroit shortly before the surrender, while awaiting a court-martial for cowardice.